Tonight, we embark on a journey far beyond the familiar portraits and grand inventions. We will peel back the polished veneer of history to reveal a truth so profound, so unsettling, that it dares to cast a shadow even over the most incandescent genius the world has ever known. Beyond the serene, enigmatic smile of the Mona Lisa, beyond the revolutionary marvels of his flying machines, beyond the iconic brilliance of his art, a profound, almost chilling darkness falls over the very name Leonardo da Vinci. This is not the sanitized, comforting tale of a gentle polymath. This is a deeper, darker story steeped in relentless, often disturbing obsessions, shrouded in scandal that haunted him to his dying day, and burdened by a genius so utterly boundless that it bordered, unsettlingly, on the forbidden. Prepare yourself, for tonight we plunge headfirst into the tormented, brilliant, and deeply secretive soul of the man, shattering the myths to unveil the truly complex reality. We will delve into the true, often grim, depths of his existence. From the ignominious accusations of unspeakable acts that very nearly extinguished his nascent career before it could even begin to flicker, to the clandestine anatomical dissections conducted in the dead of night, pushing the boundaries of morality and sacrilege in ways that would send shivers down the spines of even today's most hardened scientists. We'll uncover his unsettling, almost cold fascination with the intricate mechanics of war and destruction, a paradoxical obsession that stood in stark contrast to his pursuit of beauty. And finally, we will confront a cryptic, perhaps ultimate, secreter, profound truth he girded fiercely, carrying it with him, unspoken, encoded, and forever beyond our reach, even to his very grave. This is not merely the conventional narrative of an artist's life. This is the harrowing, the exhilarating, and ultimately the deeply melancholic story of a mind so vast, so driven by an unquenchable thirst for forbidden knowledge, that his true legacy is far more unsettling, far more haunting than any simple tale of celebrated brilliance could ever convey. So, before you get too comfortable, before you allow the gentle hum of the night to lull you into complacency, take a crucial moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly, genuinely enjoy the kind of content that fearlessly merges profound, often uncomfortable history with unsettling, whispered mystery. And hey, let us know where you are watching from right now, in this very moment. What time is it for you as the shadows lengthen and these secrets begin to unfurl? Sometimes our stories are so compelling, so deeply entwined with the human condition, that they prove better than sleep itself. And other times, perhaps, they just make you dream louder with unsettling clarity. It's time now to dim the lights, perhaps turn on a fan for some subtle white noise, and let's cover what we have for tonight together. His journey into unparalleled genius did not commence within the grand, gilded palaces of Florence, or under the sanctified, legitimizing gaze of the church. Leonardo da Vinci's life began with a quiet, yet undeniably profound stain, an unsanctioned, illicit union in the small, unassuming Tuscan village of Onciano, marking him irrevocably illegitimate from the very moment of his birth in 1452. This was not a minor detail in the rigid, unforgiving social tapestry of Renaissance Italy. It was a fundamental, lifelong disqualifier. It meant he was an outsider, perpetually marginalized, denied the formal education and the vast societal advantages that were automatically afforded to legitimate sons of established families. His childhood, therefore, was not one of structured schooling, of rote memorization, or of privileged tutelage. under esteemed masters from the outset. Instead, it became a harsh but ultimately formative crucible of fierce self-reliance and acute, almost predatory, observation. While other children learned their prescribed letters and dutifully adopted their family's traditional trades, Leonardo was already filling nascent notebooks screwed, perhaps, but overflowing with radical ideas, with fantastical creatures of his own invention, intricate mechanical designs that defied the known technology of his age, and precise, unsettlingly detailed observations of the natural world that seemed to transcend, to utterly defy, the very limits of human perception. He absorbed knowledge not from dusty, conventional tomes, but from the raw, unfiltered, chaotic tapestry of existence itself. This early, inherent independence, this deep-seated, almost intuitive rejection of rigid societal conformity, was not merely a convenient character trait. It was the foundational, defining element that forged a mind destined not just to challenge, but to utterly redraw the world as humanity understood it. The constant, subtle sting of illegitimacy, the unspoken knowledge that he was always just slightly apart, likely instilled in him a profound empathy for the marginalized and a restless curiosity that bristled against all intellectual boundaries. He wasn't constrained by traditional disciplines because he hadn't been formally initiated into them. He was a free-ranging intellect, an unburdened explorer. How, one might ask, that a childhood spent under the cloud of illegitimacy, under the constant, subtle pressure of being lesser in the eyes of society, forge a mind that would not just defy, but utterly transcend every conventional norm, including, perhaps, its own perceived limitations and the very definitions of what was possible. This unique origin, born from the very circumstances of his outcast youth, cultivated a relentless, almost desperate, curiosity and a profound skepticism towards conventional wisdom that would drive him to extremes. The answers, as we shall gradually uncover, would prove far more unsettling, far more deeply human, than any celebrated masterpiece he would ever bring forth. Florence, during the vibrant and volatile latter half of the 15th century, was truly a pulsating, exhilarating crucible of Renaissance creativity, a city that practically breathed artistic fervor, scientific curiosity, and fierce philosophical debate. Its streets teemed with intellectual giants, groundbreaking artists, and ambitious patrons, all vying for influence. Yet, beneath its dazzling, sunlit veneer of cultural rebirth and intellectual enlightenment, it was also a labyrinthian hotbed of ruthless political intrigue, cutthroat artistic ambition, and dangerous, career-ending whispers that could ruin a man's reputation, livelihood, and even his very life in an instant. It was here, in the year 1476, at the tender and vulnerable age of 24, that a dark, suffocating cloud descended abruptly and violently over the burgeoning talent of the young Leonardo. He, alongside several other young men, faced grave, public accusations of sodomia crime in that era, which was not merely scandalous, but legally considered an act of unnatural vice, punishable by the most brutal consequences: public shaming, social ostracization, the absolute ruination of one's future prospects, and, in the most severe and often arbitrary cases, even death by burning. The official records, stark and chilling, name Leonardo as one of the accused, citing an anonymous denunciation, a common, cowardly tool of revenge or political maneuvering in Renaissance Florence. While the charges were ultimately dropped, first due to a lack of a second corroborating anonymous accusation, a bizarre legal requirement of the time, and later what historians strongly suggest was the powerful intervention of influential connections from the Medici family. The scandal was undeniably public, excruciatingly humiliating, and a searing indictment that very nearly extinguished his nascent artistic career before it could even truly ignite. This traumatic brush with the spectre of public ruin, this chilling encounter with the very edge of total damnation, was far from a mere academic footnote in his expansive biography. It was a deeply seared experience, a defining trauma that profoundly reshaped his nascent personality, forcing him inward, fostering an almost pathological need for extreme secrecy, and cultivating an impenetrable self-containment that would mark him like an invisible brand for the rest of his life. It is no mere coincidence, therefore, that after this profoundly disturbing period, his infamous mirror script writing from right to left across the page, rendering his words legible only when held to a mirror, became more prevalent, almost a signature, in his personal notebooks. Was this truly just a practical cipher, a simple, clever method for privacy, a quick way to protect his valuable ideas from prying eyes? Or was it something far more profound, a psychological barrier, a deliberate, almost desperate, obfuscation, designed to protect a mind now deeply, irrevocably, and perpetually wary of exposing its true, vulnerable, and potentially transgressive contents to a world that had so readily, so viciously condemned him? This early ordeal, this public humiliation, was not merely a formative event. It was a deeply etched scar that forever defined the man behind the burgeoning genius, imbuing him with a pervasive sense of caution, a profound wariness, and an almost obsessive need for privacy that would cling to him until his dying day, shaping not just his artistic creations, but the very labyrinthine pathways of his brilliant, guarded soul. The whispers never truly faded, only retreated to the shadows, and Leonardo learned to dwell there, behind the mirrored glass of his own mind. For a man whose very name has become synonymous with unparalleled artistic perfection, with completion, with the absolute zenith of human creative endeavor, Leonardo da Vinci harbored a notorious, almost maddeningly consistent, and deeply frustrating habit. He frequently, maddeningly, abandoned masterpieces mid-creation. Consider the Adoration of the Magi, a breathtakingly dynamic and innovative composition, a revolutionary leap in painting, left unfinished in Florence when he departed for Milan, or St. Jerome in the wilderness, a raw, powerful, and deeply moving study of penance, likewise incomplete, its profound emotional resonance trapped in an unfinished state. And perhaps, most famously, the monumental Battle of Anghiari mural for the Palazzo Vecchio, a project of immense civic ambition and artistic scale, a planned fresco that, due to his experimental techniques and perhaps a deeper, fundamental flaw, dissolved, and was ultimately never fully realized, becoming a heartbreaking symbol of artistic frustration. These were not minor sketches or fleeting ideas. They were extraordinary fragments of genius, ambitious endeavors that consumed years of his life, yet all left maddeningly incomplete, forever tantalizing in their unrealized potential. This wasn't merely a lapse in discipline, an occasional distraction, or a simple scheduling conflict. It was a consistent, pervasive, and deeply unsettling pattern that permeated his entire prolific career. What profound, perhaps internal, force compelled him to halt his progress at the very precipice of completion, leaving these magnificent visions suspended in a state of perpetual becoming? Was it the curse of an unreachable perfectionism, a divine discontent that found no earthly equal for the celestial, utterly ideal visions that danced tirelessly within his soaring mind. Perhaps his intellect was so vast, so restless, so relentlessly analytical, that once he had mentally solved the artistic or scientific problem presented by a work, the tedious, physical act of bringing it to its final, polished conclusion became a mere formality beneath his soaring imagination, an uninteresting task he could not bear to complete. Or was it something far deeper, a pervasive psychological block, an unknown internal sabotage that haunted his creative process, preventing him from bringing his grandest designs to their final, vulnerable, and perhaps too perfect conclusion? Scholars have debated for centuries, endlessly dissecting this curious habit. Was it due to his restless intellect, constantly seeking new, unsolved challenges, moving on as soon as the conceptual hurdle was overcome? An inability to remain focused on a single task for prolonged periods, always chasing the next intriguing problem? Or perhaps a profound, subconscious fear of failure to meet his own impossibly high, self-imposed standards, a fear that completion might reveal imperfection? Some have even speculated it was a deliberate strategy to keep his work in a state of flux, allowing him to endlessly refine and rethink, never truly committing to a final statement. But the riddle remains, deeply ingrained in his legacy. Why did a mind so utterly capable of conceptualizing and initiating such breathtaking, revolutionary works consistently leave behind a trail of magnificent, yet frustratingly incomplete endeavors hinting at something more, something forever just out of reach, lost in the dust of his restless, perhaps tormented, brilliance? The unfinished symphony of his career whispers of a soul forever searching, forever unfulfilled, perhaps unable to capture the boundless nature of his own dreams. Beyond the elegant, almost ethereal brushstrokes that gave life to the serene Madonna, and the intricate mechanical drawings that envisioned impossible feats, Leonardo da Vinci harbored a darker, far more visceral hunger, an insatiable, almost pathological, desire to understand the very machinery of life and, unsettlingly, of death. This led him to a clandestine, often gruesome, and profoundly dangerous pursuit: human anatomical dissections. While such studies were not entirely unheard of in the 15th century, practiced by a courageous few like Andreas Vesalius, Leonardo's approach was unparalleled in its thoroughness, its meticulous detail, and its sheer, almost obsessive, scale. He reportedly dissected over 30 human cadavers, including children, in the dead of night, in utter secrecy, working in desolate corners of hospitals, makeshift laboratories, or perhaps even in hidden, forbidden rooms. He endured the putrid stench of decaying flesh, the chilling cold of death, and the grim reality of peeling back layers of skin and muscle to reveal the intricate, terrifyingly complex dance of tendons, bones, organs, and the very vessels of life. His sketches from this period are not just medical illustrations. They are works of morbid art, revealing a profound respect for the human form alongside an unyielding, almost clinical detachment. This was no mere academic exercise conducted under sanctioned conditions. It was a profound, almost blasphemous, clash between his insatiable scientific hunger and the severe moral and deeply ingrained religious taboos of his profoundly pious era. The Church and society at large largely condemned such practices, viewing them as a grotesque desecration of the human body, an act of sacrilege against God's creation, and a direct, insolent challenge to the divine order of man. To tamper with the dead, to disturb the eternal slumber of a soul, was to risk not only earthly punishment but the terrifying prospect of eternal damnation. Yet, Leonardo persisted, driven by a relentless, almost maniacal curiosity that superseded all fear of earthly retribution or spiritual damnation. What forbidden truths, what ultimate answers about mortality did he truly seek within the cold, silent flesh of the deceased? Did he seek to unlock the secret of the soul, to find the exact seat of consciousness, or simply to strip away the centuries of superstitious veils and dogmatic mystery that shrouded the human form? And what unsettling revelations, what disquieting contradictions to established belief, did these forbidden inquiries impart about the very essence of human existence, perhaps confirming a worldview far removed from the comforting, yet often restrictive, dogmatic teachings of his era? This macabre laboratory work, unseen by most, whispered only in hushed, fearful tones, was a testament to a man who would stop at absolutely nothing, not even the fear of eternal damnation, to uncover the world's deepest, most visceral, and often most horrifying secrets. It was a profound intellectual isolation, separating him from the conventional scholars and artists of his time, leaving him alone with his discoveries and the chilling implications they presented. It is a profound, almost monstrous paradox that the very same mind capable of perfecting the angelic faces of the Madonna, rendering the divine with unparalleled grace, and dreaming of humanity's graceful, ethereal ascent into flight, also meticulously designed terrifying instruments of war. Leonardo da Vinci's sprawling notebooks, those treasure troves of genius, are filled not only with delicate, vibrant sketches of botanical life and the serene contours of human anatomy, but also with chillingly detailed blueprints for advanced siege engines, colossal armored tanks that resembled medieval monsters, and massive, multi-barrel crossbows capable of unleashing devastating barrages upon an unsuspecting enemy. He envisioned designs for primitive submarines that could strike unseen from below, for devastating artillery, and for intricate fortresses, all rendered with the same precise, almost loving detail he applied to the most delicate flower or the most complex human organ. This inherent duality presents a profound, almost disturbing question. How could a genius so exquisitely attuned to beauty, the delicate balance of nature, and the inherent sanctity of life also dedicate such significant intellectual energy and meticulous, almost clinical, detail to the mechanics of ultimate destruction? Was he merely a pragmatic visionary, a realist who understood the brutal necessities of his volatile age, simply fulfilling the grim demands of his powerful patrons, like Ludovico Sforza, Duke of Milan, who desperately needed military innovation to secure his domain? Or did a more unsettling, perhaps even dark, fascination with raw power, strategic control, and the terrifying efficiency of devastation secretly motivate his military pursuits? While he often expressed a profound, almost poetic, revulsion for war, famously calling it a bestial madness, his detailed and often horrifyingly brilliant designs reveal a mind capable of envisioning both utopian peace and apocalyptic conflict with equal clarity and perhaps equal chilling detachment. The unsettling legacy, then, is a man whose unparalleled capacity for creating breathtaking, life-affirming beauty was intrinsically intertwined with an equally profound, almost chilling, understanding of how to unleash devastation upon his fellow man. This inherent dual nature, this unsettling balance between life-giver and death designer, between the architect of beauty and the engineer of carnage, remains one of the most enigmatic and deeply disquieting aspects of his complex, paradoxical character, hinting at a darker side to his celebrated intellect. Then there is the Mona Lisa, arguably the most famous painting in the entire world. A masterpiece that has captivated billions, yet simultaneously it remains his most enduring and frustrating enigma. Who was the mysterious woman behind that legendary, subtly unsettling smile? What was the true identity of her sitter, and why, for decades, did Leonardo keep this particular portrait with him, refusing to part with it, carrying it from Florence to Rome, and finally to France, where it remained in his possession until his very last breath? The theories surrounding her identity and the reason for her lasting, almost obsessive, presence in his life are as numerous as they are wildly speculative, often bordering on the fantastical. Was she truly Lisa Gherardin, the wife of a Florentine merchant, Francesco del Giocondo, as historical accounts suggest? Or was the painting a disguised self-portrait of Leonardo himself, a reflection of his own androgynous identity, or perhaps a hidden message about his complex relationship with gender? Could it be a composite, an idealized androgynous form crafted to embody a profound philosophical concept rather than a specific individual? Rumors persist that the subtle, almost imperceptible shift in her smiler masterclass, in his famed technique that blurs the lines between light and shadow, creating an illusion of movement, conceals a hidden message, an encoded secret accessible only to the truly observant. Some whisper of forbidden love, a clandestine affair Leonardo was far too discreet, too guarded, to ever openly reveal, and so he immortalized her in secret. Others suggest her knowing, almost taunting, gaze holds the key to a profound philosophical truth, a groundbreaking scientific principle, or even a hidden alchemical or occult secret, understood only by the master himself. The unsettling fact that he never truly finished it to his own satisfaction, and never truly delivered it to its supposed patron, adds yet another layer of profound, almost deliberate, mystery. He kept revising it for years, suggesting a deeper, more personal connection than a mere commission. Could that legendary, enigmatic smile, that captivating, unblinking gaze, truly conceal a deeper, far more personal secret? Perhaps a profound loss, a deeply felt betrayal, a hidden love, or a final, unsettling truth he alone guarded, meticulously encoded not just in the pigments, but in the very fabric of the canvas itself. This painting, seemingly serene, hides a tumultuous, deeply personal backstory, a riddle that continues to haunt the ages, daring us to look closer, to understand the silent whispers it steadfastly refuses to speak aloud, forever holding its ultimate secret hostage, beyond the well-known unfinished works of Leonardo da Vinci, beyond the celebrated masterpieces that survived the ravages of time, lies an even more chilling and profound truth: the truly lost masterpieces. These are not merely incomplete sketches or abandoned ideas that exist only in his notebooks. They are entire paintings, monumental sculptures, and groundbreaking architectural designs that once existed, were meticulously planned, or even partially created, only to simply vanish from the annals of history, leaving behind only tantalizing references, fleeting descriptions in contemporary accounts, or the faint, ghostly echo of their existence. Consider the Medusa shield, a terrifying and groundbreaking painting described by Vasari, so vivid and horrifying in its detail that it reportedly caused visceral fear in those who viewed it, yet now utterly gone, its power existing only in legend. Or the massive bronze equestrian statue of Francesco Sforza, known as the Gran Cavallo, a project that consumed over a decade of Leonardo's life. Immense intellectual energy and an unparalleled amount of material, only to be destroyed. By invading French forces who used its clay model for target practice. The precise details of its destruction are still debated, but its loss is undeniable. This isn't merely an unfortunate circumstance of time, neglect, or conventional warfare. It points to a pattern that leads to unsettling speculation. Were these treasures stolen by jealous rivals, perhaps melted down for their precious materials, or deliberately sabotaged by envious contemporaries? Were they systematically destroyed by vengeful patrons or political enemies who sought to erase Leonardo's influence or suppress his radical ideas? Or, more provocatively, were they deliberately hidden by Leonardo himself, perhaps deemed too dangerous, too revealing, or simply too advanced for the common eye of his time, containing knowledge or ideas that could not be openly displayed without risking his safety or incurring the wrath of powerful institutions like the Church? Whispers abound of secret societies, clandestine patrons, or even dark, occult influences that sought to either possess these unique creations for their own esoteric purposes or to systematically suppress the profound, perhaps heretical knowledge and revolutionary concepts he encoded in his art and inventions. The sheer number and scale of his lost creations, far exceeding those of his contemporaries, implies a deliberate erasure, a series of profound enigmas that continue to fuel conspiracy theories and underscore the pervasive, almost intentional, secrecy that defined much of his brilliant, yet guarded, life. What profound secrets, what forbidden knowledge, what devastating truths, what hidden narratives lie forever buried beneath the dust of time, waiting to be unearthed, perpetually, reshaping our understanding of the true, unsettling Leonardo. His later life, particularly the years spent in Rome from 1513 to 1516, was far from the triumphant, glorious crescendo one might expect for a genius of his caliber. Instead, it was marked by a palpable sense of decline, both physically and professionally, painting a stark, almost melancholic picture of an aging master. Rumors circulated persistently of debilitating health issues, a stroke that may have caused a profound tremor in his right hand, making the intricate, delicate work of a painter increasingly difficult, if not impossible. His once keen eyesight, legendary for its observational power, was also reportedly fading, blurring the sharp edges of the world he had so meticulously recorded. While he valiantly continued his scientific investigations, immersing himself in geology, optics, and anatomy, a perceptible shadow seemed to fall over his once prodigious artistic output, casting him as something of a relic in a new, more dynamic, artistic age dominated by younger, more aggressive, and politically astute talents like Michelangelo and Raphael, who embraced the grand, public commissions he increasingly shied away from. It was during this twilight period in Rome that even more troubling accusations surfaced, whispers, not just of eccentricity, but of his alleged dabbling in forbidden sciences and even outright occult practices. His continued secretive anatomical dissections, conducted against strict papal prohibitions, his unconventional cosmological theories that openly challenged prevailing geocentric beliefs, and his unwavering skepticism towards certain church dogmas was seen as increasingly provocative, almost heretical. He was living under the direct patronage of Giuliano de' Medici, brother of Pope Leo X, which offered some protection, yet the suspicion persisted. Was he truly conducting dark, forbidden experiments, venturing into knowledge that directly challenged papal authority and the very foundations of divine creation and scriptural truth? It has been strongly suggested by historians that the Church, increasingly wary of independent thinkers who threatened its absolute intellectual and spiritual dominance, began to subtly, yet persistently, close in on the man who dared to see too much, to ask too many questions that religion preferred to leave unanswered, perhaps even to hide. Or was it simply that his own magnificent, yet perhaps fragile, mind was beginning to fracture under the immense weight of its unparalleled vision, buckling under the sheer volume of knowledge it contained, leaving him vulnerable to external accusations and crippling inner turmoil? His twilight years in Rome present a haunting, almost tragic image, a titan of intellect, perhaps haunted by the very knowledge he had relentlessly pursued, slowly burning out under the suspicious, watchful gaze of a world unready for his profound truths, a world that ultimately sought to contain what it could not comprehend, and often what it feared. Yet, perhaps Leonardo's greatest, most profound, and ultimately most enigmatic legacy lies not in the few surviving paintings we can now see in museums, but in the vast, bewildering, and largely undeciphered collection of his personal notebooks. These are not mere sketchbooks or common diaries. They are an almost unfathomable universe of thought, comprising thousands upon thousands of pages filled with meticulous notes, intricate sketches, profound scientific observations, and groundbreaking centuries ahead of their time inventions, all painstakingly penned in his famed, enigmatic mirror script. This method of writing, from right to left, legible only when held to a mirror, was not merely a quirky habit. It was a deliberate act of obfuscation, a personal code that ensured only the most dedicated or fortunate could truly access his inner world. These aren't just technical drawings or fleeting personal musings. They are a direct, unfiltered, and deeply intimate window into a mind that seemed to operate on a different temporal plane, a consciousness that existed in a future that was yet to arrive, a mind capable of conceiving the helicopter, the calculator, and plate tectonics centuries before their discovery. Modern cryptographers and historians continue their tireless, almost devotional work, poring over these dense, cryptic texts, with startling new findings constantly emerging. They reveal not just detailed studies of human anatomy, from the intricate workings of the heart to the development of a fetus and the complex mechanics of hydraulics, but also profound philosophical treatises on the nature of reality, intricate city plans that predate modern urbanism, and even tantalizing hints of prophetic insights into the future of humanity and technology. Rumors have long persisted that these notebooks contain far more than mere science or art, perhaps a hidden diary of a soul grappling with truly forbidden knowledge, a detailed blueprint for a secret society he might have envisioned, or even founded, or a deeply personal confession of his unconventional beliefs and perhaps even his most private, hidden desires. Are they merely the painstaking, if idiosyncratic observations of a prodigiously curious mind, a relentless chronicler of existence? Or are they a profound personal diary of a soul grappling with knowledge that was truly centuries ahead of its time? Knowledge so dangerous or so overwhelming that it could only be recorded in code, still awaiting its full revelation, its complete, terrifying understanding by a world finally ready to face it. The sheer volume, the dense complexity, and the deliberately mysterious nature of these documents ensure that Leonardo da Vinci continues to speak to us, even if in a language we are only beginning to understand, constantly teasing us with whispers of what he truly knew and what he deliberately chose to conceal. They are his ultimate masterpiece, a universe contained within a series of leather-bound volumes, a universe still largely unmapped. His death in France, in 1519, is etched into the romanticized annals of history, a serene, almost beatific passing, with the great Leonardo da Vinci famously depicted as drawing his final breath in the comforting, regal arms of King Francis I. This idealized image, immortalized in countless artworks and biographies, paints a picture of royal reverence, an artistic apotheosis, a peaceful end to a life of unparalleled brilliance. But it is also a narrative intentionally crafted, a myth designed to comfort and impress, a story that perhaps intentionally distorts a more complex and unsettling reality. While it portrays a revered artist cherished by a powerful monarch, it subtly, yet undeniably, belies the profound, lingering questions that continue to surround his final moments, his true spiritual state, and the ultimate destination of his vast, unique intellect. What were his true final beliefs? Did he, in his final moments, find solace in faith, reconciling his radical scientific rationalism with the prevailing religious dogmas of the time, seeking comfort in a final communion? Or did he die a steadfast skeptic, a profound intellectual, rebel, harboring truths too unsettling, too dangerous for public consumption, for fear of eternal damnation or the complete unraveling of societal order? Did he, in his final fading moments, truly regret the relentless, often solitary, and always controversial path? His insatiable curiosity took him down a path that led him to dissect cold cadavers, to challenge the very foundations of human understanding, and to design devastating war machines, pushing the very boundaries of human knowledge and conventional morality. And what profound ultimate secrets, if any, did he truly take with him to the grave, forever beyond our reach, locked within the unfathomable depths of his brilliant, yet deeply complex, mind? Was there a final, unspoken thought, a last, unwritten discovery that vanished with his last breath? The romanticized farewell, designed for public consumption, hides a more unsettling, more profound truth. Leonardo da Vinci's unparalleled genius was as much a profound burden as it was an extraordinary gift. He was a man who dared to see too much, to understand too much, to question everything, and perhaps, because of this, lived a life shrouded in an intentional, almost defiant, mystery that even death could not fully unveil. His passing, therefore, left the world with far more questions than answers. A final, profound enigma from a man who mastered the art of secrets, leaving behind a legacy that continues to haunt, to provoke, and to endlessly fascinate, inviting us to forever chase the whispers of what might have been. Leonardo da Vinci remains, unequivocally, a breathtaking mosaic of profound contradictions, a towering figure of both dazzling, divine light and unsettling, impenetrable shadow. He was a master of creation, a visionary artist who sculpted the very fabric of beauty, yet simultaneously a meticulous designer of terrifying destruction, an engineer of carnage. He was a celebrated public figure whose work shaped the very course of art and science for centuries to come, a man whose name echoed through the courts of kings. Yet fundamentally, he was a solitary figure, a meticulous keeper of the deepest, most unsettling secrets, a private intellect who rarely allowed others into the labyrinthine depths of his own thoughts. His life story, fragmented yet monumental, a series of tantalizing whispers and grand declarations, is a chilling reminder that true genius often blurs the conventional, comforting lines between sheer awe-inspiring brilliance and something akin to a consuming madness, a relentless, all-encompassing pursuit of knowledge that can ultimately devour the soul of the one who seeks it, leaving them profoundly isolated in their unparalleled understanding. The scattered fragments of his extraordinary life, his eternally unfinished works that haunt us with their unrealized potential, his dense and coded notebooks that promise untold revelations, the haunting silence of his lost masterpieces, and the lingering scandals that continue to cling to his name like a stubborn stain point to a man perpetually at odds with his own time. He was a visionary who understood the world in ways no one else could even begin to conceive, yet was perhaps haunted by his own boundless intellect. A man burdened by a knowledge that perhaps should never have been known, a burden that isolated him. His story compels us, challenges us, to look deeper than the polished, idealized surface of his public fame, to peer into the unsettling, sometimes horrifying, depths beneath. Was he merely a man born centuries ahead of his time, a scientific prophet trapped in a world utterly unready for his profound truths, forced into a life of secrecy by fear of persecution, misunderstanding, or even self-preservation? Or was he a tormented soul, perpetually isolated by his own unmatched intellect, trapped by knowledge that demanded too much of him? Knowledge that he could only record in code and silence, forcing him to choose ambiguity over revelation, even at the cost of his own peace of mind and perhaps, ultimately, his sanity. And are we, even now, centuries later, still blind to the true, chilling cost of his unparalleled vision, the devastating price he paid for seeing what no one else could, for knowing what was forbidden, for daring to comprehend the universe in its naked, unsettling truth? Perhaps the greatest secrets are not those hidden in coded messages or lost paintings, but in the unasked questions about the very nature of genius itself, and the terrible, beautiful, isolating burden it carries. Asterisk.